Which college football powerhouses are secretly teetering on the brink heading into 2025? You think you know the top dogs, but some big names might be built on a house of cards. Their business value ready to plummet. We're diving into Josh Pate's bold predictions, separating the contenders from the pretenders whose stock is about to crash. Are your favorite teams like UGA on his sell list, and which under-the-radar programs is he betting on to boom? Stick around to find out. Georgia. For years, they've been the gold standard in college football. Kirby Smart built a monster. Multiple national championships, consistent CFP contenders, an NFL talent pipeline. They looked unbeatable. But is that championship window closing faster than you think? What if the bedrock of their success is showing hairline cracks? Josh Pate, on his show, dropped a bomb. He's considering selling stock in Georgia. Sell UGA, the Bulldogs? Why would anyone bet against this proven powerhouse? Pate says it's not crazy to sell on Georgia now. His reason? Georgia is bringing back less than 50% of its production from last season. That's a huge number. Key players, leaders, gone to the NFL, coaching staff shuffles, and the constant pressure of being the team everyone wants to beat. Can they sustain it? Pate points to specific worries. He's eyeing the substantial player losses Georgia faces, particularly along the offensive and defensive lines. These are the game-winning, game-losing positions. Now, they're relying on underclassmen there. Talented, yes, but SEC dominant immediately? That's a big ask. Then there's the quarterback. Carson Beck is out. Gunnar Stockton is in. Pate calls Stockton athletic, but a mystery until he proves it on the field. Pate thinks even with decent quarterback play, it's more probable that Georgia will regress rather than improve upon their SEC championship winning performance. That's a stark prediction. Is their schedule tougher? Are there tiny signs in recruiting or development that suggest a plateau? Think about the business. College football is big money. What happens to Georgia's brand if they slip even a little? After years at the absolute peak, a 10-2 season might suddenly feel like a letdown to some. This dip could cause significant implications for Georgia's brand value, booster contributions, and media appeal. The money flow from boosters might tighten. Media narratives can flip fast. The financial ramifications of even a minor downturn could be substantial. It can impact recruiting cash, coach salaries, everything. When you're at the top, any step back is magnified. What about the mental game? Can a team so used to winning keep that same insane hunger? Does complacency ever sneak in after so much success? It's a tough battle. Now, many fans will scream, "Georgia reloads." They'll point to Kirby Smart's elite recruiting classes. He's a master motivator. They've done it before. They have the system. So, is Pate just looking for a contrarian take, or is he onto something real? So what's the critical reason Josh Pate is labeling Georgia a sell for 2025? It's not one thing, but a perfect storm. The massive loss in production, that sub 50% number, is a red flag. The specific player departures at critical spots like the offensive and defensive lines are huge. He isn't predicting a total collapse. He's saying for 2025, expecting improvement or even matching last year's elite level is a tough bet. With an unproven mystery quarterback in Gunnar Stockton and young players needing to be instant stars in the trenches, the risks are high. Pate believes regression is more likely than another surge. Georgia's reputation for invincibility, for always reloading seamlessly, might actually be their biggest vulnerability this time if those new pieces don't click perfectly and immediately. He's essentially saying the price of their stock is at its peak and a small dip is more likely than another rise. If a giant like Georgia, a team that's defined an era, is looking a bit unsteady to an analyst like Pate, what does that mean for other programs, especially those built more on current hype and flash than on years of Bulldog-level foundation? Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. He walked into Boulder and Colorado football exploded. It became appointment television. Overnight, you saw the headlines. Media everywhere. Ticket sales through the roof. Merchandise flying off the shelves. The hype, the visibility. Unprecedented for a program that was struggling. But is this prime effect actually building a solid, long-term program? Or is it a spectacular, but short-lived financial gamble? A flash in the pan? Beyond the cameras, beyond the sound bites, what's really happening on the field? And what are the long-term money implications for Colorado? Josh Pate isn't buying all the hype for the future. He has a more critical view, especially looking ahead to 2025. He sees potential problems under the surface. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement, but smart fans, smart analysts like Pate, look deeper. What is the actual substance holding up this massive media structure? Will the wins keep coming? Colorado has leaned hard on the transfer portal. Very hard. Is this a sustainable way to build a team? Can you create real team chemistry, real depth when your roster turns over so much, so fast? Especially that offensive line. It was a huge problem. Pate brings up a big concern. He points out that in their latest transfer portal class, only one player was a blue chipper. One. That makes you wonder about the overall talent level being brought in repeatedly. Is it enough to consistently compete at a high level or just patch holes temporarily? This constant churn could be a major risk. Good teams are often built over years, not months. And what about the business of Coach Prime himself? Yes, he's generating a ton of revenue. That's clear. But how much of that new money is going back into critical football infrastructure? Things like new facilities, bigger recruiting budgets, better support staff, or is more of it going into marketing the brand, into keeping the hype machine running? There's a balance there. What happens if the wins don't match the media frenzy? Boosters and fans love excitement, but they love winning more. If the on-field results slip, that revenue stream could slow down fast. The business model only works if the team performs. Then there's the massive pressure on just two guys, Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter. They have to carry so much of the load. Pate called Deion a miracle worker last season for what he did with a struggling offensive line and almost no run game. That's a lot for one player to shoulder. What happens if Deion gets hurt? What if Travis Hunter faces an injury? Or what if either of them just has a slight dip in their amazing performance levels? Can the rest of the team step up? Pate's analysis suggests that if these key players are not at their absolute best, or if that offensive line doesn't significantly improve, the whole thing could unravel. This heavy reliance on a few stars is a gamble. And let's not forget the neighborhood they play in, the Big 12. Pate describes it as so insanely compressed and competitively balanced. This isn't a conference where you can just show up and expect to win based on hype. There are established programs, teams built traditionally, with depth and strong lines. Will Colorado's current roster, even with its star power, truly compete consistently against these teams once the initial prime novelty wears off? The Big 12 is a grind. Every week is a battle. There are no easy outs. So, what's Pate's bottom line on Colorado for 2025? Is this Colorado experiment going to turn into consistent success, a real program build, or is it going to become a cautionary tale? Will the hype keep translating to enough wins to build a stable foundation? Pate's analysis for Colorado's 2025 prospects is pretty clear. He thinks it's more likely than not Colorado falls back. He's not saying they'll be terrible, but he believes a regression from whatever they achieve in 2024 is coming. Why? The brutal nature of the Big 12, the questions about the offensive line, the quality of the overall roster depth beyond the stars. In a league this tight, Pate explains even a small step back in performance, a slightly worse offensive line, or a couple of unlucky breaks could mean losing 3 or more extra games. The hype is one thing. Consistent wins in a tough conference, that's a completely different challenge. A significant correction could be coming. While Colorado gambles big on hype and star power, other established programs, some with much more history, are facing different kinds of challenges, maybe more hidden, internal problems. The SEC, it's a meat grinder, and for 2025, two huge names, Florida and Oklahoma, face really tough paths. They're both at critical points. Billy Napier at Florida is under immense pressure with a brutal schedule. Brent Venables is steering Oklahoma into the SEC, meaning much tougher competition. But while these giants might struggle, are there other overlooked teams quietly setting themselves up for a major stock increase? Let's look at Florida, the Gators. A massive brand, a proud history, but Josh Pate likely sees them as a sell. Why? There are concerns about Napier's ability to rebuild the program effectively. It's not just one thing. It could be issues with recruiting in key spots. Are they getting the elite talent they need to compete at the very top of the SEC? Maybe player development isn't happening fast enough, or perhaps it's questionable coaching decisions during games that cost them. Napier has a huge buyout, but if the losses keep piling up against that tough schedule, the pressure from boosters and fans will be enormous. The underlying question Pat seems to be asking is, can Napier turn this ship around with the clock ticking and the SEC getting even harder? These are the worries that could sink Napier's rebuilding efforts and make Florida's stock fall. Then there's Oklahoma. They're walking into the SEC jungle. Big question. Are they ready? Will their offensive and defensive lines hold up against those powerful SEC fronts week after week? Can their high-powered offense keep scoring at the same rate against elite SEC defenses? Pate acknowledges they have the toughest schedule in the country. Many are skeptical about their ability to compete at the highest SEC level right away, but here's a twist. While the challenge is huge, Pate expects improvement from Oklahoma in 2025. He points to a strong defensive line. He also notes that Pate believes the issues last year were primarily on offense, and the team has brought in Washington State's offensive coordinator and quarterback. He even says Pate thinks the roster is a top 15 roster in the country. So, while the peril is real, Pate sees Oklahoma as better equipped than some might think. It's a massive test, but not necessarily a guaranteed sell for him. This brings us to the idea of buy teams. These are programs that might be undervalued right now. They have the key ingredients for a breakout. What are those ingredients? Often, it's strong, stable coaching. It could be a lot of talented players returning. Sometimes, it's a schedule that sets up favorably. Or maybe a team is building a new, strong identity that the market hasn't really noticed yet. Pate looks for these signs. These buy teams could be a group of 5 school ready to shock some people. Or they might be a Power 5 team that's quietly on the rise, and most fans haven't caught on. Identifying these teams early isn't just about bragging rights. For the programs themselves, a breakout season means more exposure. That helps recruiting, it brings in more money, it really changes their business position in college football. So which teams is Josh Pate bullish on for 2025? Which ones should smart fans be buying stock in before they explode? First, Florida State. Pate calls them an easy buy. He sees big potential for improvement. Why? Florida State's overall talent roster is much better than people expect, and they have 2 new coordinators. Plus, they also took fewer question marks in this year's portal class, focusing on production-proven players. That means they're adding guys who have already shown they can play at a high level. Another buy for Pate is Washington. This might surprise some. Washington lost 20 of 22 starters, which is a massive turnover. But Jedd Fisch came in as the new coach. And crucially, Pate notes, they also have a manageable schedule by Big Ten standards. A new respected coach and a schedule that isn't a complete nightmare can lead to quick improvement, making them an interesting pick. So Florida State and Washington are 2 teams Pate thinks are undervalued and poised to see their stock rise. Oklahoma, while facing a huge leap, is another one Pate seems more positive on than you might expect, thanks to that roster and key offensive changes. Understanding these buy and sell signals isn't just about predicting wins and losses, it's about seeing the future business landscape of college football a little more clearly. So, you see, college football, it's a massive stock market, high stakes, big money. Recognizing that real value, looking past the flashy hype and the old reputations, that's the key. It's how you spot which programs are truly built to last and which ones are just financial mirages. Are you thinking like an investor when you watch your teams? Consider the business side. What's the long-term play? Let us know your buys and sells in the comments. And hey, subscribe and click the bell, because understanding these risers and fallers, it gives you a smarter view on this wild, ever-changing business of college sports.